Italian food is different from region to region. For example, up here in the north where I live, it very closely resembles Central European cuisine. So a lot of cabbage, kind of simple, but done in a way that only an Italian could. And this next recipe is a perfect example of that. It's called Verzata from Milan. It's a cabbage soup, which might sound simple, might even sound a little bit boring, but since it's an Italian recipe, you know it's going to be good. Welcome to Actually Italian. I'm Sal, and I'm on a mission to help you cook authentic regional Italian cuisine. So today we're going to be making this delicious cabbage soup, packed with nutrition, packed with flavor, and really satisfying on a cold winter day. So let's get into the ingredients. Like a lot of Italian recipes, this uses very simple ingredients, which is why it's really important that all of the ingredients are the best that you can get. In this recipe, we're going to be using cabbage, some artisan sausages made by my butcher, sofrito, which we'll go over in a second, some homemade chicken stock, some white wine, and some herbs. Each ingredient really needs to be as good as it can be for this to be a really spectacular dish and not just a boring cabbage soup. I make my own chicken stock from scratch. If you don't have your own chicken stock made and ready, you can definitely use one bought from the store, but make sure that it's not seasoned and that it doesn't have any salt, because you want to be able to control the salt content. For wine, we're going to use some white wine, and it doesn't matter what kind it is. The one thing that's important though is that it's going to be a wine that you would want to drink. Sofrito is the foundation of just about every Italian soup or stew or braised dish. It's just a mix of celery, carrot, and onion. It comes in various forms. It can be chunky, it can be mixed in a food processor until it's chopped up kind of fine, or it can be actually chopped up into a paste. For this recipe, we want it chopped fine. So I'm going to prep the sausage now. What we want to do is take the casing off of these, and we're going to break these up, but we want to break it up in the pan, and I'll show you that in a minute. Now these sausages were made by my local butcher, so they're very fresh. They don't have any fennel in them. The sausages you're going to find in the supermarket are likely going to have fennel. That's fine. If you do have a butcher nearby and want to have sausages made, then maybe they have them without fennel, or you could even order some where they don't. Anyway, I'm going to take the skins off of these, and I'm flattening them out so when I cook them in the pan, it's going to be easier to break them up. If you want the recipe, I've got this featured in a cookbook called The 10 Best Italian Soups, which is available for free as a download. If you want to get the ingredients and the recipe, just click the link, you'll get that recipe plus 9 other awesome soups. We briefly talked about sofrito before, where it's the classic mix of celery, onion, and carrot. You're going to find this in a lot of different recipes in Italian cuisine. It's very important. It's the foundation of a lot of dishes. So what we want is to kind of break it down a little bit for this dish. Some sofrito you would leave chunky like this. In this one, we're going to use a little food processor to chop it finely. This is essentially the consistency that I'm looking for here, where it's just chopped. It's not like a puree, it's not a paste. So I've got this cabbage. It's actually called a cappuccio cabbage because it looks like a hood. Anyway, I'm going to cut this up. I want to chop it into small pieces so that way each spoonful will have it. If it's too big, it's going to be annoying to eat with the spoon. I'm going to take out the root. We want to get rid of this center here because it can be very mustardy. It can be a little sharp. So I'm just going to cut that out. This will go in my compost bin. And then we're just going to give it a rough chop. It's going to cook long enough where it's not going to really matter if some pieces are bigger than others. We don't need it to be precise. Like I said, we just want it to fit on a spoon. I've got a heavy Dutch oven that we're going to use for this, but any thick stock pot is going to work. So we've got it over basically a medium flame. We're going to add a little bit of olive oil, just a little bit, because these sausages are actually pretty fatty. So we're going to get more than enough fat out of these. We just want the oil to just get them started. And I'm putting them in the pan while it's still kind of cold, because I want that fat to render out. If I put it in a hot pan, it's going to seize up and it's going to take, it's not going to render out, it's just going to get like kind of firm. So this will get the fat out, and we're going to use that fat to cook the sofrito and the cabbage. Now the reason I have it whole like this and just squished down is because this is going to make it easier to break it up. As it cooks, it firms up, and then I'm going to chop it up with the spoon. All right, so the sausage is nice and crispy on that one side. I'm going to turn it over so we can see. So we can start breaking it up now. Also, take a look at all that fat that came out. And that's just probably a fraction of it. We're going to get a lot more out of these sausages. But now we're just going to break it up with the edge of this kind of spatula thing here. And you can see it's going to be easier to break it into smaller pieces. This is basically what we're looking for here. It's broken up into little pieces. Some of them are pretty brown and crispy, but we're not looking to get color on all of the sausage. We're just looking to get that fat out of there and get it mostly cooked. So I'm going to take the sausage out now, and we're going to put the sofrito in and get started with that. So we've got all this fat in there. It's going to cook the sofrito. Just going to dump it in here. If you feel like it's too much, go ahead and take some of that fat out, but honestly, I like that fat, so we're going to leave it in. All right, so we're going to cook this for probably like, I don't know, 5 minutes until it gets soft. So we'll check back in a second. We're almost at 5 minutes here, but they're not even quite as softened as I'd like them, but we're going to add the wine right now, because if you can see there, see how it's starting to burn on the bottom? We don't want that. Carefully add that wine. At this point, we just want to let that wine evaporate. And once it's done, we're going to add the cabbage, we're going to put the sausage back in, and we're going to put some bay leaf in for flavor. So you can see that wine is almost evaporated. There's almost no liquid left there. So all the alcohol is pretty much gone. So we're going to get going with the rest of the ingredients in there. So we're going to just put the cabbage right in. I've got the bay leaves there. Those are also going to go right in right now. Sausage goes in, and now the chicken stock. Now you notice there's no tomato in this. There's no tomato paste. I didn't put any garlic in. There's plenty of garlic in the sausage. So that's what kind of makes this dish more regional, because this is how they do it up here. In central Italy, say in Tuscany, you'd see some tomato paste in there. You'd see different herbs, maybe some rosemary. You might even see some beans in this dish. It just depends on where in Italy you are. Now, this is going to look like we need more stock in there. You see how it doesn't look like much? However, a lot of liquid is going to come out of this cabbage, so we really don't need more stock than that. I'm going to put a little bit of salt in for now. Not too much, but I just want enough to get the liquid coming out of the cabbage. We're going to cover it, and we're going to let this go for about half an hour. This is what it looks like after half an hour cooking. So you can see it's got just the right amount of liquid. Now I checked it after 20 minutes just to see, and a lot of liquid had come out of the cabbage, but I needed to add about another, I'd say, a half a cup of water just to get it to this consistency. And I checked the seasoning. I put a little bit of pepper in, and let it cook for another 10 minutes. So this is the result. So to plate it up, we've got some bread that I toasted. We're going to put it in the bottom. This is going to be the base of the soup. Now this would have been old bread. Now imagine you're a poor farmer, right? You've got some bread that's been sitting around for a few days. You're not going to throw it away. You're going to put it in this soup, and you're going to stretch the soup. You're going to get all the calories and nutrients that you need without throwing anything out. So that's going to absorb that liquid nicely, and it's going to provide a nice base for the soup. To garnish it up, we're going to take a little bit of oil. This is where you want to use the good stuff. So when you have some expensive oil, this is when you want to use it, because we want that flavor. And then just a little sprinkle of Parmesan cheese over the top, and that's it. It's ready to eat. All right, so half hour later, this is what we've got. I'm going to go in for a taste. Let me tell you, that is awesome. Now, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but this is why it's so important for all the ingredients to be the best that they can be. Because this is just a simple cabbage soup with some toasted bread and some sausage, and it's ridiculous how good this is. It's pure comfort food. So, this is what Italian food is all about. Simple, yet they just get the most out of all the ingredients for an incredible flavor. It's packed with nutrients, it tastes good, it's a perfect dish in the winter. It really warms you right up. I hope that this was helpful and that you make this dish yourself and enjoy it as much as I am. So, we'll see you on the next episode.